All right, let's talk about something that seems super simple, but actually has these huge consequences for your wallet and your rights. When you own something, what do you actually own? It's a bigger question than you think. So let's dive right in. Okay, so picture this. You just closed on your dream home. You've got the keys, you're standing on the porch. It feels amazing. But what did you just buy? Just the building? What about the ground it sits on? Or that fancy built-in oven? What about the shed out back? This is where a really basic legal idea splits literally everything you own into two different buckets: land and things. And here they are. It all boils down to these two categories: real property and personal property. Think of it like this. Real property on the left, that's the immovable stuff, the land and anything that's permanently stuck to it. And personal property on the right, that's just everything else, all the movable stuff. Let's break that down a bit more. First up, let's get totally clear on real property. This is the foundation of ownership, literally. You know, the official definition here really has two key parts. First, you've got the land itself. That's the dirt, the rocks, pretty much everything from the center of the earth all the way up to the sky. But the second part is the crucial one. It also includes anything attached to or forming part of the land. The easiest way to think about it is this: if you can't move it without breaking something, it's probably real property. And this is where it really starts to click, right? The plot of land, that's the obvious one. But the house? Well, it's physically attached to the foundation. The fence posts are literally sunk into the ground. That in-ground swimming pool is a permanent hole in the land. And see the furnace? It's physically wired and plumbed into the home systems. All of these things are considered part of the real property. Okay, so let's flip to the other side of the coin. What about all your other stuff? Well, that is where personal property comes into play. This one is so much simpler. Basically, if it's not land and it's not permanently screwed down, bolted, or cemented to the land, it's personal property. It's your stuff. The key idea here is mobility. Can you pick it up and move it? If you can, you're almost certainly talking about personal property. And here you can really see that difference in action. Your couch, your car, your phone, all clearly movable. But check out the freestanding microwave. Unlike a built-in one that's part of the cabinetry, this one just sits on the counter. It's personal. And the lawnmower? It's your personal item, even though it lives in the shed. And that shed, if it has a permanent foundation, might actually be real property. Okay, so we have our two neat little boxes: real and personal. Seems straightforward enough, but what happens when something crosses over from one box to the other? This is where it gets really fascinating. This whole transformation process creates something lawyers call a fixture. An item starts its life as personal property, movable, separate, but then through the act of installing it, it becomes a permanent part of the real property. Let's just follow the life of a deck to see exactly how this works. At first, you've just got a pile of lumber and a box of nails sitting in your yard. That's personal property. You can move it wherever you want. Then you start building. You bolt that lumber to the house's foundation, you sink posts into the ground. That's the transformation. Once it's done, that deck isn't going anywhere without a wrecking crew. It has become a fixture, a permanent part of the real property. So the main thing to remember here is this: it's not just what something is, it's where it is and how it's attached. A beautiful chandelier sitting in a box at the hardware store is personal property. But that exact same chandelier, once you've wired it into the ceiling of your dining room, it's almost certainly become real property. It's all about context. Okay, so why do we actually care about any of this? Is it just some boring legal distinction? Absolutely not. This stuff has very real and often very expensive consequences in your life. I mean, just look at this number. When you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line in a typical home sale, knowing exactly what's included in that price is absolutely critical. Fights over whether the fancy curtains stay or go can literally derail the entire deal. And this distinction pops up everywhere. In a home sale, the seller takes their personal property, but they have to leave all the real property, including those fixtures. When it comes to taxes, that big property tax bill you pay every year, it's based on the value of your real property, not your furniture. Insurance is another big one. Policies have totally separate coverage limits for the house itself versus all the stuff inside it. And for inheritance, a will might leave the house to one kid and the contents to another, making this distinction legally vital. So really, what this all boils down to is that whether you're buying a home, selling one, getting it insured, or passing it down, understanding this simple split between real and personal property, between what's attached and what's not, is the absolute foundation of knowing what you truly own. And that leaves us with a pretty wild modern puzzle to think about.
Consider a smart home. The smart thermostat that's physically wired into your wall, that's almost certainly a fixture, part of the real property. But what about the software that runs it? The software that's essential for it to even work? Is that now part of the house, or is it still just a separate piece of personal property? It's a question our laws are still catching up with. And it just goes to show you how this centuries-old concept is more relevant than ever. Thanks for watching.